Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way.
On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir, Ajay and Vincent are joined by Rick Martira to discuss his work as a growth marketing and media executive. Tune in to learn about Rick's strategy for personalized and targeted content, as well as his advice for newcomers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to another episode of Stirista's The Marketing Stir. I am your still tan and happy host, Vincent Pietrafesa, the Vice President of B2B Products and Partnerships here at Stirista, coming at you, The Marketing Stir. Oh my goodness, we have so many things to talk about today. What a crazy, exciting few weeks we've had. And now we're just getting into that after the summer, all that fun begins again. But it's so good to see you. Let's talk about Stirista just for a few seconds. That's all we talk about. Stirista, we're a marketing technology company. We own our own business-to-business data and business-to-consumer data. We help companies through our own technology access that data to help them get new customers through a variety of different ways. Email marketing, display, connected TV. We do a lot of that. Ladies and gentlemen, email me, vincent@stirista.com. You are emailing me. I appreciate it. That means you're listening. Is it always for what I intended? It is not, but it is okay. The other thing that is more than okay, I got to see him recently, my co-host, although he just moderated another podcast. I don't like that, but still one of my favorite people in the world. Really? Your CEO? Yeah, the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ajay Gupta, what's going on?
Hey, Vincent. Last time I saw you, I almost had to throw you out of our US Open suite, but luckily the questions are more scripted today.
You can go off on a tangent as you want, yes.
So Vincent told the number 13th ranked player in the world who had stumbled in our suite. Now, in Vincent's defense, I think he thought it's just somebody random who was a spectator or a friend or something. And it started off promisingly. He was making small talk, and then he goes, is this your first time at the Open? So that's when I had to remove him from the conversation and apologize profusely. But Leylah Fernandez actually had a really good run in the doubles. Her and Venus Williams made, I think, the quarters of the semis of the women's doubles.
We had a nice Stirista event. A lot of great people there at the event, clients, prospects, just loving it. A great day. Because of having this suite, it was nice that they brought a tennis pro around. And they said, Leylah Fernandez is coming. She just won a match yesterday. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. So in walks this young woman who looks like she's 18 years old. And they're like, oh, that's the tennis pro. And no one approached her immediately. They were maybe shy. So me, AJ knows this, the audience knows this, anyone who meets me within 4 seconds knows I'm not a shy person. So I go up to this young lady. Leylah, great match yesterday. Tell me about how you started in tennis. I was 6 years old. My first love was soccer. I thought I was going to go pro in soccer. This is boom, boom, boom. We're rocking. I was like, oh, so your fallback is you're an awesome professional tennis player. I was like, must be tough as a great athlete. Is this your first US Open? Boom. And that's what did it.
I think when you say she thought she was a tennis player, you thought the same way I am a tennis player, not in the way she's a tennis player.
Well, yeah, no, I knew she was a pro, but like she was in the finals like a couple years before, and she looked so young. And then AJ being a tennis player, it was like, Vincent, get out of here. I was like, okay, Leylah, so nice to meet you. I'm gonna go over there and drink after I take my foot out of my mouth. But to my defense, 2 or 3 other people right after that asked the same thing, but I was just the first. They were like, first year, it's just like a little conversation now, but I know that her and Venus, if Venus walked in, I would have been like, this is definitely not your first US Open, right? But no, it was a fun event. Our clients loved it. We had a great time. AJ came to New York, which, as you know, 100+ episodes in, is always a fun time when he's here talking about big presence. You know, people all over the world know this brand, should know this brand, this organization, this company, this powerhouse. We have an amazing representative from iHeartMedia. He's the vice president of growth marketing, my friend, Rick Martira. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, happy to be here. I'm hoping this appearance comes with the US Open suite invite next year.
There's two ways to become someone in that suite: a prospect or a client. So think about it. Think about it.
Certainly not going pro in tennis, so those are probably my two avenues. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, you've been here before. This is not your first US Open. I would mix that up. But Rick, good to see you again, my friend. Let's get into it, Rick. Tell us about iHeartMedia and then your role specifically at the organization.
Yeah, for sure. So iHeart is a massive legacy brand, obviously. We all kind of grew up consuming radio the old-fashioned way. I work specifically in the B2C division and in the digital group. So we are all focused on trying to drive customers and listening and brand advocates for all the digital platforms for consuming iHeartMedia. So think like your iPhone and Android apps, predominantly the website, your connected TV, your smart speaker, all those fun things, which is really the next evolution of audio, right? How many times have you been getting a coffee from a barista with one AirPod in, or seeing people walking down the street? Like, there's just audio content prevalent in life, and it's just accepted. And so we're pushing for iHeart to really be a wide array of content that people fall in love with, from not just radio, but all the way through to artists and podcasts as well.
How'd you get started in marketing, right? Is it the rarity, at least on these podcasts, where you went to school for marketing and here you are? Or is it the majority of people been on this podcast are like, I studied religion and here I am?
Let's see. So I graduated with a degree in PR and marketing and a minor in sociology. At least the thought was study the masses and then you could market to them. At least it sounded good on paper anyways. We ended up doing a final project with a nonprofit. I happened to be in a group with 4 other girls. We did the Girl Scouts as our nonprofit. And so when I went interviewing out of school, I ended up getting 2 identical job offers. One was for a company that sold fine art to galleries across the country, and one was at a booming advertising agency. And that Girl Scout project was the one that got me the advertising agent's gig. And I'm thankful that I took that. One building was full of old people and one was full of young people. And so I went for the one that was totally full of young people. And that kind of started me on the path inside of advertising, media, and marketing, kind of expanding from there.
Talk to us a little bit about how growth marketing works when you have such a huge and massive brand like iHeartMedia.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a unique position where we're focused not only on the user acquisition side, but also on the retention and churn fighting side, really that kind of full customer journey. The benefit is you have this massive tailwind of awareness, but the headwind is it the right kind of awareness, right? Is it the one that kind of can actually elevate new customers through the door, and especially young customers who are maybe experiencing digital iHeart platforms for the first time? And so it's really trying to make sure that you can capitalize on those 2 sides of the coin together, and then obviously get your customers in cost effectively, get good LTVs and good payback on your investment, but have them kind of fall in love with the product and become advocates for it as well, and be sticky for the wide array of content that iHeart offers.
And with kind of that wide array of not just content, but kind of divisions within the company, how are you measuring what success looks like, and how do you think about success?
Everything kind of boils down to listening hours, right? And that can be in an aggregate. It can be at a cohort level, like all the customers from one month or from one media source, or down to an individual level, like on average, how many hours are you listening in your first week, your first month, or for your 12 months of your life cycle? For iHeart, listening hours equal monetization, right? And that's the revenue generation piece. What's different for us than some other streaming audio opportunities out there, other brands I'm sure you've heard of, we're really focused on the free ad-supported offering. We basically message that 90% of the time. That's where we're driving a lot of our customer acquisition. And there seems to be a really new appetite in the culture, especially here in the US, for that. We could probably thank Netflix a lot for it, kind of getting into the ad-supported model. Other more traditional kind of pay streamers expanding there and seeing the opportunity. So it's becoming much more ubiquitous kind of across all different audience groups. And we're laser focused on bringing people into that ad-supported model, discovering all kinds of radio stations, over 1,000 of them across sports, news, music, et cetera. But also, what a lot of people don't know is iHeart is the #1 producer of podcasts in the world by a country mile. Like, the gap between 1 and 2 is massive. And so that division of the business has really been a huge growth engine in and of itself, be it launching new shows, bringing on new talent, finding exclusive opportunities to bring that content to our customers. That's obviously been a huge cultural wave that we're riding as well.
And Rick, what you're talking about, an audience of like hundreds of millions, how do you ensure relevance, personalization when your audience is that big?
Personalization is really big for us because when you have that many genres, you have someone who might be a huge hip hop fan. If you're going to serve them country music recommendations all the time, you're really putting them at risk of churn. So we have a very robust kind of engine under the hood where we're cataloging all different data touch points of people so that we can not only power recommendations for them, but if we're really getting behind a big tentpole launch, maybe it's a new podcast from the Breakfast Club, which is big in the hip hop space, or maybe it's a true crime podcast, or maybe it's a new sports offering that we have. Speaking of this new NFL season that just launched, I want to make sure we're bringing that to the right people. So that segmentation powered by data is really important. And then we can obviously power that into the product itself, but also into the CRM communications, the email marketing, the push notifications, so that it becomes an added benefit to people, helping their content discovery kind of plant roots and grow, as opposed to just being wallpaper that goes up in front of their eyes.
That definitely makes sense. And you mentioned you've worked on both the agency side and the brand side. How's that kind of shaped the way you're collaborating with partners and vendors today throughout your career?
Yeah, definitely started the agency side, left that to get into the world of startups. So really like kind of building and putting my fingerprints on something. 2 different startups. Oddly enough, the first one was a company called Unify that was acquired by iHeart. I just happened to never cross paths and actually work at iHeart during that time. And after that, I went into the world of sports betting. I was actually there at the start of the sports betting wave here in the US, even before any states launched, for a company called PointsBet that was ultimately acquired by Fanatics a couple of years ago. So that spirit of big brand plus startup mentality, go fast, break things, learn from your mistakes and apply them forward. That's what I really liked about this opportunity, because it's kind of that inside of a big legacy brand, but this digital division and the focus on growth marketing is really a new drumbeat that we've been building up and seeing some really good results on.
So for a company your size, when you're working across teams in a hybrid work environment, how do you kind of keep your teams aligned where days can be very, very different for everybody?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we're ever fully going back, at least most companies, to that pre-pandemic level. So it really is about making sure people feel engaged, feel like they're being collaborated with, despite it being through screens, right? One of the things that I always kind of would tell myself, this is throughout early stages of my career through to this day, was, if you're going into a conference room for a meeting, going into any meeting, try and make sure you leave adding something, right? Leave the room making sure you added something. And I think a lot of that fell off when it was through a screen. People just said, I want to make sure I check the box because I'm there. But that's something we really instill within my group, is like, make sure you're actually adding value to it. Just because this is a digital experience we're communicating through doesn't limit that at all. And with that as your North Star guiding principle, it really kind of snowballs on itself, and people feel the vibes and feel like they can riff with each other. And another key piece I've also found works really, really well is, you have your 30 minutes data sessions, your typical weekly one-on-ones, whatever that might be, really making sure you lay the groundwork to get everyone on the same page from a KPI standpoint. So that 30-minute session, the first 10 minutes, you're reviewing numbers, you can get through quickly because you're all speaking the same language, you know what you're trying to accomplish. And then the other 20 minutes are about ideation, collaboration, bouncing things off of each other, as opposed to when you're constantly reinventing that KPI wheel. What is success? The full 30 minutes just kind of explaining stats and never getting to that. So I find that's really important digitally because it helps get to the fun part of it. Not that I don't love number go up. That's definitely fun too. But the kind of collaboration and creative part, that's really, really key for it.
So as a data company, speaking of numbers, how important is first party data for you at iHeart, and how are you kind of preparing for that world without cookies where first party data is key?
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone comes out here and says, yeah, first party data not important to us. That's, a big legacy company like iHeart, where there's traditional broadcast listening, the digital listening opportunities are the things that kind of create that first party opportunity, right? If you download the app on your iPhone or your Android, you're going to register and become part of that first party data pool. So the customer acquisition piece is not only about just getting people to cross that line, but getting that first party data that can power a lot of ad products for iHeart or listening experiences or insights that can kind of shape future strategies. So super critical in not only like getting it, but collecting it and making it usable and not just sitting in a in a Redshift somewhere.
Rick, you mentioned something before about tailoring different audiences to, like, if I'm into hip hop, maybe not country music, right? And you're targeting a specific group of people, or are you trying to get them in first and then you're targeting them based on some of the content that you think they'd like or are consuming?
Yeah, both. There's evergreen messaging, and then there's kind of like show specific messaging that can help get people through. What you don't want to do is over micro target from the beginning, because just because you listen to hip hop doesn't mean you don't also like country, right? Like a lot of people out there where that Venn diagram does cross. So it definitely is about getting those people through and then slowly honing in on what is relevant to them. And that could be across different listening types. So not too surprisingly, we find if people listen to more than one station in the radio lane, they become much stickier. If they listen to multiple content types, if it's radio and podcasts and playlists, et cetera, they become much stickier as well. So a lot of it is strategizing on how do we cross-pollinate, right, to other listening opportunities while still doing it very relevantly to that customer and not making sure that it's just like a very strange surprise and delight recommendation that doesn't really make any sense and you kind of putting them at risk.
And that leads into my next question. You kind of hit on it there, Rick, is what kind of metrics are you looking for on a daily basis? I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's definitely customers that kind of come through and register, right, for that first party data piece. Then it's about the listening hours and the average time spent listening at certain time horizons, your first day, your first week, your retention rates. But because of the uniqueness of the offer, there's other data points that can help kind of give a more 360 piece to that customer, a view of them. So for instance, in the radio lane, 90% of our stations are running multiple contests, right? Remember those like radio contests, right? And so there's a big segment of our customer base that like, they love those contests. And so the amount of contests that you enter and making sure that you're then servicing and recommending additional contests to them that make sense, that's a unique piece to the customer kind of view as well. So it goes beyond just listening hours, but it's a really kind of lean in engagement metric that can help show like someone is truly getting a 360 view of the brand. Another example, the unique feature we have is called the talk back button. So remember you used to call into the radio station, right? You can actually just like push a button and send a message directly to that DJ that you're listening to, that radio station. Maybe that's for entering a contest. Maybe that's just for fun. Maybe that's like basically a generic call-in. But all of those types of kind of opportunities become data points that we then map to the customers and make sure that we're helping to use that to inform future strategies.
Talk to us a little bit about, one campaign that you've worked on or initiative that you think best represents your approach to modern marketing.
One, I think I was very partial to, it was kind of early on in my journey at iHeart in 2024. We actually did a partnership with NBC and we're the exclusive audio provider of the Olympics. And so if you wanted to listen to that live feed of the Olympics, or we developed additional net new podcasts to kind of complement that called The Podium, specific custom radio stations all about the Olympics. And so it became more than just a live feed, like the feed that you're getting from NBC, but it became multiple lanes that iHeart could provide to kind of people who were in that Olympic spirit. And I don't know if you remember last year, like Olympics was in the zeitgeist. I feel like it reached a fever pitch more so than it had in Olympics past. And that was a huge success for us. We got a ton of listening, a ton of new customers, a ton of sticky customers. And it was for something, that you might not think of iHeart for traditionally, but it's something that's repeatable for future years as well.
It's a cool fact. I did not know about the NBC portion. So I'm sure with your title and where you work, you get a lot of unsolicited messages. So what's one that gets an answer from Rick and what's one that really annoys you?
Wow, great question. I'm a data guy. So if you can quantify an interesting stat that doesn't seem like it's just kind of an off the shelf plucked from a product marketing resource, but something that truly is interesting. I find that that can kind of cut right to the heart of something. And if you can kind of weave that in and it doesn't seem super forced, not saying you guarantee to get a response, but it definitely increases your probability on that one. Things that I would say, cringeworthy a little bit when they come through would be just those attempts at trying to be super casual and just like almost extreme in the, I know you don't really care about this, but I'd love to get in front of you. Just like really kind of take it to the extremes just to try and get a reaction. Maybe the salesman let those work, but for me, I'd much have like something useful come through that we could maybe springboard into a conversation.
Yeah, I like that. Like, no one's really mentioned that one before, like the casual approach. You're like, I know you get so many. It's like you don't care. That's a good point. Yeah. Rick, talk to me about what are you listening to right now? What are some shows or podcasts or radio stations that you enjoy?
Yeah, a big NFL fan. So like very relevant to this conversation. iHeart is also the exclusive podcast partner with the NFL. So we have a huge slate of NFL podcasts that we help produce. And then we also have, if you go into the app and you search NFL, that first listing will actually be a page where it lists all the individual teams and all the local stations for the play-by-play. So if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, you can go right to that one. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, you can go right to that one. So anything related to NFL right now in the iHeart suite is a big, big one for me right now, including fantasy, right? A lot of people in fantasy football. We partner with Colin Coward and The Volume and that whole array of podcasts and that network and help produce those as well. Fantasy Pros is a big one inside of there that gets a lot of traction this time of year. And you can count me in that listenership, especially late August and early September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. We have 3 fantasy divisions here at Stirista. I'm in the varsity one along with AJ. The rest are JV and modified, I would say. Hopefully they'll listen to this podcast with my fellow employees and get that. But
they know they're in the JV league. Yeah, there's no secrets there.
No, they don't know that. I'm just saying it now. But AJ and I are both in the varsity league. We actually went head to head in a championship a couple years ago, and it came down to the Buffalo Bills and the Bengals game where DeMar Hamlin unfortunately got really hurt and thankfully was brought back and is good. But AJ just beat me on that one where who knows what that would have been. Right?
I think it was clear I was going to beat you regardless. But yes, Vincent put an asterisk on my win.
You should get like Letterman jackets and really lean into this whole thing when you win a championship from it.
Oh, I know. Don't tempt us. We already have matching jackets. We also had shirts on the other day where some lady commented, oh, nice shirts. And she thought one of our coworkers picked them out for us. We're like, what? How would that be? But yeah, anyway, we love fantasy football here. Who's your team, Rick? You're a local guy, right? New Yorker as well?
Oh yeah, I am a Giants fan. I grew up in Rhode Island, but my dad was a Giants fan growing up because the Patriots didn't exist when he was a kid. And that was the close team. So to his credit, loyal and stuck through, and that plenty roots with me. But my son randomly is a huge Detroit Lions fan.
Wow. Well, you know what? It's kind of like, I think the kids like players now, right? Unless you I really drilled that into my son that you have to become a Giants fan, and he's 8 years old, so he has not experienced any good things with the Giants. But yeah, you like Detroit, they're a good team. They're on all the time, right? They're on prime time now. They never won anything. So yeah, it's crazy. What else do you like to do for hobbies? What's your personal life? You got the little one, you said. How many kids do you have?
2 kids. So yeah, very much like family first, be it helping coach flag football or obnoxiously screaming in the audience for my daughter's dance recitals and plays. Definitely don't mind being the loudest one there. So yeah, it's very much just like leaning into family, while your kids still think you're cool. We got to step back and understand that's a small window of time in our lives. So let's milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, I know. And I remind my son how cool I am every day, which I guess doesn't make me that cool. But Rick, one more marketing question, because I want to understand, like a lot of people listening are C-level CMOs all the way down to maybe it's their entry level or they're interning. And what are some skills you think that people should develop in marketing these next 5 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the easy answer is familiarity with AI, right? And that is more well-rounded than you might think. Like thinking about ways that can kind of approach the marketing stack, be it front end customer touching product features, back-end data and insights powering, creative development faster and more cost-effective, really just experimenting with it and making sure that you're kind of proficient in it and feeling comfortable with it. And when a new trend kind of comes out, you can take advantage of it, but also through the lens of making sure you're doing it in a data safe and compliant way so that you can do that experimentation with safe guardrails on. But beyond that, I think people, should look into lateral thinking and just problem solving in general, and making sure that when a problem arises, especially like with a young generation who can maybe ask a question in a prompt and just get an answer, right? We're seeing that with like education system and colleges, right? Trying to force yourself away from that a little bit, right? Like use those tools, but also kind of challenge yourself to come up with your own solutions, your own ideas, put them on paper, and don't solely rely on the technology tools that will be coming your way. If you can balance that, you'll get the best of both worlds.
I love it. That's great advice, Rick. Thank you for spending some time with us here on the Marketing Stir. Check out iHeartMedia, ladies and gentlemen. You may not even know some of the stations you're listening to are already iHeartMedia, but check it out. Download the app, listen to podcasts, listen to Z100, my favorite radio station. That's not even a lie. I love it. Grew up in New York. Of course, I'm a New Yorker. Look at me. And check out Rick Martira, ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President Growth Marketing at iHeartMedia. That's Rick. I'm Vincent. That's AJ. Say hi to Layla Fernandez for me. Varsity Fantasy Football Team out. Thank you for listening to the Marketing Stir.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.